Hi everyone, Nigel Saunders here. Today I'm going to repot my 2 acacia trees that survived last winter. I was thinking a lot about why the other trees died. I think it wasn't the temperature, it was just the long period of dormancy, that it was just too long. They can take, 10 degrees Celsius for a while, but I think it was just too long a winter. They wanted to come out into leaf and it was just too cold and they died. So 2 of them survived, so I'm going to repot them into a smaller pot. And it's an out of season repot, but they're cool right now at 10 degrees Celsius or 50 degrees Fahrenheit. And after the repot, I'll be bringing them into the plant room, which will be like spring for them, and they should leaf out and grow. Fingers crossed. So that's what I'm going to be doing today. So my soil was outside and it was frozen, so I brought 2 bags of soil in to the greenhouse here to thaw them out. So I'll be using that soil for repotting, and I'll have to find a pot outside that'll be smaller, and that'll depend on what the root base of the acacias look like. If it's a really big root base, I'll need a larger pot. If the root base is quite small and compact, I can put them in a smaller pot. So here I go. Here is a look at the trees. So the main one here survived, and the one behind it in here has a branch growing out of it that's alive. On that second one, there's not much else that's alive on it. All the other branches died off, and all these other green things you see in the pot are weeds. So they're not acacias. They look like acacias, but they're not. They're just weeds that grew up. So I think I'll begin by cutting out the dead trees. I left them all summer to see if they would leaf out, and they didn't. So they're definitely dead. And these trees are very thorny. So by cutting them out of the pot, it'll be a little safer for me to repot the other 2. Okay, here I go, cutting the dead trees out of the pot. I hate doing this, but yeah, they're definitely dead. They're dry. This one died. That one's definitely dead too. This one, yeah, definitely dead. Onto the trunk. There's the trunk. Okay. I'll cut these weeds out, and there's another weed growing up here. Okay, so there's my 2 remaining trees. So you can see the foliage on this one branch here, and I'll show you the foliage on the main tree. So here is a look at the foliage on the main tree. You can see it's still green. It's starting to lose its foliage because of the cool weather, but yeah, it did quite well. So my next step, I'm going to prune up the 2 trees. I don't want these big long branches in the plant room, so I'll prune them up and then we'll get to the repotting. So my intended style for these trees is just like my Sarissa, the flat top acacia style. So I think a lot of these branches might be dead. However, there's some good shoots coming up here. So I'm going to kind of prune it off like a flat top. So here I go. And I'm looking for buds or thorns that face the outside. So on this branch, I'm going to take it off quite short to here. Like that. And they certainly cut differently from the dead ones. They're more flexible. This one I'll cut off to here. Like that. And the big tall main shoot here, I've got some outward facing needles here, or thorns, one up here, so I can take it off at least to here. So here comes the big cut, taking the whole top of that tree off. This one I can go back to here. So that roughly gets the main tree pruned up into kind of a flat top style. The second tree, I only really have the one branch that's I think is alive on the tree. However, I will leave the other branches on just in case. I'll just prune them back. That one's dead. I'm sure they're dead. This whole top of the tree I think is dead here. But I'll leave it. You never know. I'll take the tip off this one. That's definitely dead. And I don't know if I should. I'll just prune these ones back. Kind of taking them back a little more compact. You have to really be careful of the thorns. They're very, very sharp. Yeah, just kind of cutting it off a little more compact. I'll cut these, which I think are dead branches. Yeah, they're dead. Yeah. But I'll leave them on and just kind of prune them back shorter. I think that's good. I think they're compact enough that will be good in the plant room. Okay, so the next step is to get them out of the pot and see what the root system looks like. I'll put all these branches on the compost pile. I've got my gloves on so I don't get stabbed. Just like that. I've got my tray underneath the pot so I can pull the trees out now. So here I go. This is a big, big pot. There we go. So I'll put the pot outside. And now I can begin bare rooting them. So I'll just use my root hook from Sam. Thanks, Sam. So they're quite dry. I've been leaving these to dry out so it'll be easier to repot. You can see there's some moisture in the soil, but I haven't watered them for a few days. And this moss just grew on here naturally. It's been several years since I've repotted these trees. The soil looks really good. I may be able to reuse it for some other tree. I will definitely save it. There's a few stones in there. That might be a root coming off of this one. I'm not sure. I don't think so. No, it's off of that dead tree. Getting there. There's some ornamental grass growing in there. I'll save that. That might be nice for a little accent plant or something. Okay, let me just do a little root pruning here, get rid of some of these extra long roots. Okay. Now it's time to dump the soil, so I will do that. Okay, now I can continue combing these roots out. You see the one comes from this tree, goes way across here.
those roots are dead from the dead trees. Now, can I separate the two trees? That would make my work a lot easier. There we go. There. So there's the one tree. It has 3 really thick roots on it. Yeah. That's pretty well all just dead roots there. Okay, so there's one tree, pretty well bare rooted. I'll set that aside and try and get this one bare rooted. Okay, so there's just this clump of dead roots at the end here. And that has got the 2 trees bare rooted, separated, and ready for root pruning. Here is a look at the root systems. So this one, as I said, has 3 large roots. Nothing much on this side. And this one has a large taproot that curls around, a few other tangly roots. Yeah, a few surface roots up here. So I'll be doing some fairly major root pruning. I want to cut these big, long, thick ones back, kind of bringing the root base a little more compact. Yeah, it'll be a little risky, but I can't leave them long like this. I mean, it's just too wild. So here I go on the root pruning. I hope you can hear me okay. I've got the heater running. The high today is below freezing. It doesn't get very warm today. So this root, I think I'm going to cut it about here on an angle, kind of flat with the soil line. So here I go, a big cut. Cutting that one back. This one, it's not too bad. It's a little wild looking, but that may be the way of this tree. I'll cut this upper part off like that, and then I'll cut this part back like that. This long one I'll cut back to here. This one I'll cut back. I've got a root that kind of is very tangled here. Don't know if I can straighten it out. Better cut it off a little shorter. That may be as much as I want to do. There's a few smaller roots I can prune back here just to trim them up a bit. I think that's about as much root pruning as I should do on that tree. It's pretty wild looking, but acacias tend to have pretty wild looking root systems in nature. So yeah, I think that's it for that tree. The other one, boy, not much going for this root system. I think I'll just prune this one off a bit shorter. This one shorter. And this one to there. And I think that's about it for that tree. So there, pruned up, root pruned, and ready for planting. I picked out a pot, and you can see it's kind of frozen, but I think it's a good size for both trees. Yeah, that'll do quite nicely. It's fairly shallow, but I think it'll be good for these acacias. So I'm going to let the pot thaw out, and I'll clean it up and then plant the trees. Okay, I've got the pot cleaned up, so I'll put my Chris Marshall drainage screens in the pot. There's 4 holes in the bottom of the pot. There's 1. 2, 3, and 1 more. Just like that. And I'll add a base layer of soil, and I'll show you the soil I'm using. Here is the soil I'll be using. So this was given to me at the Kitchener-Waterloo Bonsai Society's fall show. It's mixed by hand in Canada. It's from Bonsai Gaydon, and I have succulent and cactus premium soil mix and established bonsai soil mix. So I might need both of them mixed together to fill the pot. We'll see. So I'll start with this succulent mix. So I'll cut the top off here. And did I cut it high enough? I got to cut it a little lower. Try that again. Maybe that will do it, eh? There. So there's a look at the mix. It's a little finer, which should be good for the acacias. It's not quite as airy, but it's still a good draining mix. And the other one is for established bonsai, so I imagine it's a bit more of a porous mix. Let's have a look at this one. Yes, it's more like a typical bonsai soil. So I think I'll start with the more crumbly soil on the bottom. There's a little spider. Yeah, I'll start with the more established mix in the bottom. There's my base layer. So that will give me a good layer to plant the trees on top of. Provide really good drainage. Now I've got to arrange the trees. So I've got 2 trees. I think I'm looking at the top of this one. The apex kind of comes towards you, so I think that would be a good front. So maybe something like that. And the other one, I only have 1 branch that I know is alive, or maybe 2. So I'll plant it. I don't want it in the shade of the other one. So maybe more like that. Planting the trunks fairly upright. I think something like that. It's not a final arrangement or anything, but it will do. So there's a look at the trees in the pot. I think that's good. And maybe I'll just stick with the one soil. I've got lots here. I didn't think it was that much, but there's a lot in here. So I will get my soil scoop. That is one cold soil scoop. It was outside. And I'll start adding the soil around the trees. I'm glad I have this pre-mixed soil. I didn't really want to be mixing soil outside today. It's pretty cold. So let me just kind of tamp that soil down. I don't really have to work it into the roots much because the root system was pretty open. There's no air pockets that will be developed or anything like that. I think I'm going to pretty well use the I think it's 3 liters. Yeah, 3 liters of soil here. So that's perfect. And the trees should do quite well in this soil. It's a good soil. And I'll put links to the soil in the description below where you can order the soil or pick it up in person. They sell it through the garden center that we had the show at. If you're in the area. Yeah, that's pretty well going to use this 3 liters of soil up just perfect. I think I'll just dump it out. That's it. Just perfect. You'd never guess these shallow pots hold so much soil, but they do. Yeah, that's really good. The hardest part will be finding a spot in the plant room to grow these trees. Space is definitely at a premium in there. Okay, so that is all planted. So now I'll give them a water. All right, here I go with the water. And then we'll warm the trees up in the plant room and see how they do. It should be like spring for them. So I'm hoping they do well. It was a fairly severe root pruning, but I'm hoping, you know, the trees react just like it's spring and they send out all kinds of roots and new growth. Time will tell. If I had to give an odds for survival, I would say there's a 70% chance that these trees will do well. Maybe higher than that. I'll give them 80%. This is a kind of out of season repot, but I'm hoping these artificial seasons, warming them up, will help. And we'll keep them warm for the winter and just see how they do. And hopefully they'll grow all kinds of new fine roots and I can tackle the root pruning once again, kind of trying to get somewhat of a radial root system that looks good on the trees. Okay, that is well watered. Here is a look at the 2 trees now, so I'll rotate them around. So here's the front, coming around to the right hand side, to the back, the left hand side, and back to the front. Here's a look at the ingredients of the soil I use. So it has akadama, fired clay, pumice, lightweight volcanic stone, lava stone, porous mineral-rich stone, and mycorrhiza, beneficial fungi. So that should be a pretty good soil for these trees. Yeah, from Bonsai Gaden. Thanks very much, Bonsai Gaden. That was a wonderful gift. There is a cat walking around in our backyard. I don't know whose cat that is. There it goes.
I hope my out-of-season repotting works for these acacias. I hope they feel the warmth of the plant room and they think it's spring and they'll wake up and grow throughout the winter. I'll keep you informed of their progress. There is a playlist for these trees that I grew from seed. I'll put that in the description below. And I want to thank Bonsai Gaden for supplying the soil for this repotting. A nice premium soil mix. I think the trees will have a good chance of survival. So that's all for today. I'm Nigel Saunders. Thanks for joining me in the Bonsai Zone.